Hi everyone, this is a game analysis from a tournament that I had just played in within the past month. The time controls were game 90, and I was playing an opponent who was a Class A player, or who is a Class A player, approximately 1850, and the game went like this: pawn to e4, pawn to c6, signaling the Caro-Kann defense. I'm more of a positional player, and the Caro-Kann is one of the positional type of openings. Pawn to c3, not the most common of moves in this position. Maybe more common is pawn to d4 with 2 pawns in the center on white's 4th rank. But pawn to c3, pawn to d5, and white can capture here, of course, and I would simply recapture with my pawn. But he doesn't. Instead, pawn to d3, supporting his pawn. And now if I want to, I can capture this pawn, have him recapture, and capture the queen. And with the end result, having the white king uncastled. But this isn't so bad because the king is actually pretty much okay. He finds a nice home on the square c2, and it's not so easy for me to exploit that king position. So white is actually just fine in this type of variation. Now I'm the higher rated, so I'm looking to do more than just trade down right away. So instead of going for that type of variation, I played pawn to e5, knight to f3, attacking my pawn, and I ignore it for right now, and I play knight to f6, attacking his pawn a second time. And now if white captures here, I can capture here. And if he were to recapture, he can move here if he wants, but if he does capture like this, I can now capture the queen, recapture, knight captures pawn, and I'm attacking here, getting ready to fork the king and rook. The bishop can defend the pawn like this, however, it's a little bit different now that the pawn is removed from the e4 square. The reason being, the king on c2 might not be as safe anymore because my bishop can come to the f5 square. If we just take a look back from this position, pawn, capture, capture, in this position, the king can come here and be completely safe and not have to worry about a bishop coming here because there's a pawn guarding this square. But in that variation that I just showed, the bishop would be able to get on this diagonal and maybe put pressure on the king right here. So, back to the original game. Instead of capturing here, white simply develops, supporting his e4 pawn. And now I have to do something about my e5 pawn. So I play queen to c7, and I want my bishop to come to c5. I can, of course, guard it like this with my knight or my bishop, but I think it's a little bit more flexible to have my queen guard my pawn from this position right now. I have other ideas. First, my bishop here, and I might try some knight maneuver, but we'll see that. Queen to c2, development. Maybe a little bit better is to develop the bishop. That's another idea. Bishop to c5, pawn to h3. This is maybe to prevent the knight coming here and attacking the f2 square a second time. But this is not a developing move. Maybe better would be to simply develop the bishop, and if I come here, simply castle and have the rook do that job and not waste a move in pawn to h3, a non-developing move. But instead, white does play pawn to h3, and now I'm at the point where I can castle if I want to, but I'm going to follow the rule of castling if I have to or must, but not because I can. So first I'm going to develop my knight, bishop development to e2. And now once again, I could castle if I really want to, but I don't have to right now. Instead, I'm going to pivot on the f8 square. I'd really like my knight here where it eyes the f4 square. So first, knight to f8, and white does a similar move, looking to maybe come here or here, where it eyes either this square or this square, d5 or f5. Now I play knight to g6, and now white miscalculates. He makes a sacrifice which ends up costing him a pawn and consequently the game. Knight captures pawn, knight captures knight, pawn to d4, a pawn fork. So white will get the piece back, but not only do I come out a pawn ahead, but actually with a positional advantage. I play knight to e4, knight captures e4, and instead of capturing either of these pieces, white develops. I play bishop back, preserving my bishop, and now white has to take my knight, or he is simply down a piece. Pawn captures knight, queen captures pawn, and I'm simply up a pawn. Better developed. I'm ready to castle in one move, and white can either go queenside or have to develop his knight on f1 first and then castle kingside. The problem with the knight sacrifice on e5 was that not only did it lose a pawn, but it was just incorrect because I'm the side that's actually better developed. He still needs 2 moves before his king is castled. I can castle in 1 move and my king is safe. Knight captures knight, knight captures pawn, bishop to e3, bishop to b6, pawn captures knight, queen captures pawn, bishop to f6, attacking my knight. Once again, I can castle if I really want to, but I don't have to. Instead, I develop my bishop to f5, threatening knight to g3. Hitting the rook, discovered attack on the queen. The queen has to do something. Queen to b3, attacking my bishop. Now I can castle. This bishop can't capture my bishop because of discovered a check on the king, and I got the queen. So white plays bishop captures knight, bishop captures bishop, attacking the pawn. Once again, if bishop captures bishop, discovered check on the king, and I get the queen, only this time with my bishop. Rook guards the pawn. I have 2 choices of which rook to move here. I want to move my king rook, so in the event that the bishop captures my bishop on b3, I can recapture my pawn on a7 and have my rook do stuff. Queenside castling. Light squares are highlighted here. I want to be able to take advantage of them, and I can do that. First, with the move bishop to g6, making way for my queen to come here, where she is the leader in this battery. Bishop captures bishop, pawn captures bishop, knight to d2, queen to f5, hitting here, here, here. The queen, because of this battery right here, is now considered an overloaded piece, in that it has to watch over the pawn, the square c2 and the pawn on a2. White moves pawn to f3. I capture the rook, and white resigns, seeing that if queen captures rook, it's mated. The only other variation that I can see for white after rook captures pawn is maybe to play the knight here, and if I capture the knight, gets the queen. But I wouldn't do that first. I mean, even though pawn captures pawn in this variation is probably still winning, I would first check with the rook, king here or here. I'd first capture the rook and then the knight. So that's all for this game. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. Bye.